Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 334. My name is John Morgan, and cold coffee is with me. It feels like it's been forever, man. It's been a couple of weeks since we've been together, but here we are at the sprawling estate here at the Casa de Cold Coffee, the expansive grounds.
Thank you for letting him in.
The expansive grounds. I see that the pool has been all manicured and handled.
Man, they fixed the filter. That shit's running like a champ. I'm ready to go out there and be like one with the nature and be all free willy like.
Freeing your willy, is that?
Like. I look like a fucking whale going through the fucking water.
I thought you said you were going to go out there and free your willy back
there.
You know
free my willy. Well, I wait till it gets dark. I'm not going to do that in daytime. My fences aren't high enough. And somebody might put, the telescope to see.
They've got the telescopic lens on.
You got to go past the gardens, over top the treetops, past the tennis courts, past the basketball hoops.
You can never be too careful.
And then you find my small penis somewhere in there.
Wow, what a way to get started. Yes, sir, the MMA Roadshow. By the way, new tagline. we always like to talk about the consistency that we have. We're the only show that comes at you every single week in and week out for 334 consecutive weeks. But I got a new thing to advertise, a new hallmark for us to hang our hat on, and that is, how about this? The only mixed martial arts podcast featuring two leading televised play-by-play announcers. You see what I'm saying?
Whoa.
I mean, you got me this past weekend. I was out there in Tunica, Mississippi for CFFC 99. Meanwhile, Cold Coffee made the trip out to Sturgis for the Lingerie Fighting Championships. Not just one, not just two, 3 consecutive nights for Cold Coffee.
Three events back to back to back. I guess that's jumping in to the fire. Right?
That's it, man. I love it. So, I said last week I let you off the hook because I knew you were scrambling to get everything ready to go for the trip, and I knew that you were a little on the nervous side, and people sent good thoughts your way, but overall, give us the report. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening right now did indeed buy the pay-per-view and tune in.
Yes,
so
I'm sure.
It seems kind of
3 days.
It seems kind of silly that we're recounting, but I mean, let's go ahead and get the recount. How did the debut play-by-play experience go?
I was a little nervous attending my first super spreader event, and so far so good on that front. I have not grown any third or fourth appendages anywhere, extra whatever.
They were expecting a lot of people out there, right?
They were, and there was Sturgis did get more. And again, Sturgis is the overall rally, so that's the city, the downtown area. There's a lot of stuff going on there. And then where I was at is the Buffalo Chip, which is one of many campgrounds there.
Right.
So the Buffalo Chip has been going. This was the 81st Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, and it was the 40th anniversary of the Buffalo Chip, the campground where we were at. So that campground had music, like the night before I got there, I think it was Kid Rock or like ZZ Top or something.
It all sounds like motorcycle rally type
total
playlist there.
Dude, I mean, like the music was strong, and it was like the kind. It was like you had to be very fucking manly to do it. Like the night that I caught it, the first night it ended with like. Who was it? Black Label Society and like Anthrax. It was like fucking thrash metal.
Bro.
Dude.
All right.
I mean, so it was cool. It was cool in that sense. But yeah, I mean, there was certainly COVID does not exist in South Dakota. So as soon as you got out of the airport where you were mandated to have to wear masks, as soon as you went outside, the first person I saw next to the shuttle to take me into this Rushmore Hotel in Rapid City. No mask anywhere. No, you couldn't fucking see a mask anywhere.
Couldn't find one if you tried.
Could not. And if you did, a Harley would just stream by and just rip it off your face.
Smells like freedom.
It does. So we get there, and it was camping out, so that was good. We camping out, I hadn't been camping out never. It was kind of funny. As I joked about, I was like, man, we're fucking roughing it, and we were pretty much roughing it camping. I hadn't camped in a while, but there's something cool about getting out and camping when you hadn't done it for a while, because you just feel rusty. I felt rusty setting up the tent. I was just like, what the fuck? But sleeping in a bag and all other kind of stuff. But that first night, that we got there, maybe it was the second night. It was Wednesday night, so I guess that would technically have been the first full day that we were there. we were sitting outside, and just the stars were so
I was
bright. There
gonna
was
ask you.
no noise pollution at all. So I'm looking up, and you could see the fucking Milky Way,
That's cool.
streaming across. And then somebody was like, "Oh, was that was weird? I don't know if that was a bird that just screamed by because the light." Really weird, and we're like, oh, that's I was like, well, bats could come or whatever, and then we saw another light. I was like, dude, that's not a bird, no, that's a shooting star, and they was like, oh, really, and then we started paying close attention. Then we saw another one,
That's
then
cool.
another
Wow.
one, then another one, and then I was like, dude, this is not normal. I know we're out here and we're close to the stars or whatever, so I looked it up online, and it was the night for the Perseid media showers.
Oh wow.
I know I'm butchering that name or whatever, but the Perseid. I just always say Perseid media showers. But dude, it was the fucking annual crazy media showers. So they were just streaming across the sky. You're like, oh, there's the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper. You could see everything so clear. So there was a moment where I was like, of course I was nervous. I was like, man, I'm nervous about doing this event. Also, I didn't know what we're going to expect. And you're just roughing it again. And you're just like, what the hell? Because even the place we were staying at, there was power, but only when we turned on the generator.
Right.
So I brought a lot of stuff for solar charging and all other kind of stuff. But to see something like that, I immediately started just sort of feeling more at ease, because then it was just like, okay, this is not something that you're going to get anywhere. Even when I've camped up at Mount Charleston, it was nothing like this, because there's still so much noise pollution from Vegas and other stuff being by. So that was really, really cool, and I was able to, one of the days, we didn't catch anything, but I was able to go trout fishing one day, and so outside of just the craziness of being there, trying to do these events, there was moments where I got to sort of, just have downtime and just time that we don't get here, just sort of reflect on shit or whatever. But as for the events, so the camping stuff was cool. I mean, there was definitely parts where I was like, fuck, I'm too old to be sleeping on the ground. So luckily I had a little air mattress, but they were by the end of the day, my back was just killing me, because when we went to go trout fishing, we had to sort of truck through some property to find different parts about the stream that bend around through the property. So we were walking a decent bit, carrying some stuff, and by the end, standing up on the shoreline and other stuff, my back was just like
I'm done.
I was like, I really want to do this, but I was like, eh. And by that point, we weren't really catching anything. I could see him in there, but we just weren't.
Oh, that's frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating. But I had never fly fished like that before. I always just sort of.
Oh, you're fly fishing?
Yeah, we were fly fishing.
Wow.
So I normally always did it the other way. I've always
you
been
gotta
intimidated.
know what you're doing with that.
Yeah, I've always
right?
been intimidated by it. So he actually took the time in. So part of the whole fishing process was just learning to work with the fly and work with the line. It was bizarre, but now I'm totally that's so awesome. I definitely want to get a fly pole now and just do it. But you got to be in the right scenario to do it, because you have to have some room around you to do it.
Yeah.
There are points where we were trying to do it along the streamline, and it was getting caught up in the weeds, and then I would get frustrated, and then you got to truck over there and pull it out, and then at that point, then I start noticing my back was killing me, and I was like, why does my back kill me? Oh, that's right, because I'm sleeping on the fucking ground. But I mean that, outside of anything, the shows were good. The crowd was fun. They were into it. I didn't know what to expect going there. I didn't know if it was just going to be like, hey, fuck you if you don't ride in there on a bike. What do you have?
Yeah.
Everybody was super polite. Everybody was just happy to be there. It wasn't the record numbers there at the chip that I thought. I think, going back to your original question of how big the turnout was, I think they said there was still over 550,000 in Sturgis.
Damn.
But that's Sturgis in total.
Right.
So the city, and then people going through it to go to different other campgrounds or whatever. There was definitely not that many out at the chip, but some of the nights when you saw some of the concerts, there were easily thousands and thousands of people smashed in there watching some of the stuff. So that was cool. How the stage was set up in the middle, I know I've set some pictures of it. The crowd was just sort of would wrap around it, and some were really into it and having fun with it. They obviously, they allowed themselves to. That sort of thing, I think it's along the same lines with professional wrestling. You have to allow yourself to play along with it, to enjoy the entertainment. Just like when you go watch theater. Of course, when you're looking and you see somebody acting, you're like, okay, he's not really in a castle and he's not really fighting, whatever. You have to allow your imagination to take you to that place. So part of what this was fun was people get really into it. We're really, sort of cheering on, we're trying to coach.
Picking their favorites.
And the girls were having fun too. I mean, and some of the bouts, it quickly got down to just pasties and panties on some stuff. Yeah, so it was just like, okay, but we're just still going to call it like it's going,
There's a reason we're associated with lingerie fighting championships.
I mean, one of the stories that I kind of alluded, in some of the things earlier, when somebody asked like some of the crazy shit. So one of the craziest shits, and I know I said a little bit earlier, was one of the fights. I think it was the second day. The girls, the main event, went out and did their third round, and then we're going to the decision. You can see the judges over there sort of tallying up the things.
Right.
They're giving the piece of paper over to the announcer, and I'm getting ready to say, hey, here comes the announcer and the thing. And I seen the ring card girl enter the ring again. I'm like, what's the ring card girl going back in there? I was like, I'm pretty sure we just saw round 3, but looks like she's getting round 3. And then I was like, did we not just see round 3? I was like, it looks like the girls want to go again, and I'm thinking, we're going to get to see some action. And then I see the announcer, Johnny Tumbleweed, step back down. And I'm like, oh no, he's not going in there. I was like, we're literally going to do this again. And I'm looking over at the director like, and there's no way to really sort of like, because this is bare bones,
Right.
It's bare bones. There's 3 camera guys out. There's 1 guy up top that was in this upper level, and 2 guys around the ring. Those guys are on headset. So if he really wanted to, he could have told one of the camera guys like, "Yo, say something to stop," or tell like the stage manager.
But they just roll with it.
But they're too busy calling between shots, and I don't think Sean really even picked up, or they were just like, no, this can't possibly be happening. Or we all do the thing in our heads where it's like,
were we wrong?
Were we wrong?
Right,
Did we really see round 3? Maybe we didn't. Because I even started questioning myself, and I was like, I know I pretty much said thank you to the ring card girl every time they went in because they were super cute, and I was just like, hey, thank you, so and so and so and so. Which, funny thing on that, we didn't even know who our final ring card girls were until literally 30 seconds before Johnny said something, because I was giving him the names, and he was smart, and I was so glad he did this. We didn't have the last girl's name, so when he went up there to say the thing, he didn't announce the ring card girl's name because he didn't have it, because it would have been awkward for him to say two
and not
out
of
3. So I was like, good on you. But then at the same time, I'm like, trying to get the attention of the scorecard girl, who had the lovely job of, 1, keeping track of the time, but also she's the one that pats him down before they enter. I was like, man, that's the job I want. I was like, why don't you come swap with me? So I'm trying to tell her, I'm like, get me her name, so I can bring it for the broadcast or something. So I'm pretty sure that I kept track of the 3 rounds because I was saying the girls' names when I could. And when they went in there and just started happening, I was like, how do I cover this up? How do I make this without us just already? How am I going to get the people that are at home laughing right now because they're like, what the hell is going on? To keep going with the story, So, I made up some, BS about the girls. The action was so good. I guess we're going to be lucky enough to see round 4, again, or something.
Just a little bonus round.
A little bonus round. It was like,
South Dakota Commission is going to allow us to put in a little extra.
Well, Angela Gorges, the Nevada, lingerie championship, whatever commission. She might be a little upset, but it worked out. There was other crazy BS drama that I don't need to bring up or whatever, but it was
you knew
something.
There were going to be some stories. It
was something. These girls. It's fun.
Was there a frosty beverage or 2 consumed out there?
There was plenty at the campsite. As for at the venue, I did have some, but it was super, super expensive in the venue.
Yeah.
I mean, because they frowned upon and actually told you don't bring some in. This is how we make our money, yada, yada, yada. But, of course, we still brought in coolers of water for the girls. Sure. And just so happened underneath those coolers of water, there was some frosty beverages. So we had some. But, I mean, I made sure to still buy some there. I mean, I get it. I play along. If you got to, support, the campground and doing what they're doing. So I didn't mind buying my $6 Coors Light every once in a while. And then they had these shots of this. It was actually like Buffalo Chip whiskey, which wasn't bad. And it was like 2 shots for like 10. So
a couple of those there.
A couple of those every once in a while made the action go. But at the end of it, I was so happy we just got through it. I mean, I felt good. Like after the first day was pure, I think, adrenaline and nerves.
Sure.
Second day had issues because we were fighting the audio all 3 days. Oh. But on the third day, I felt like we got in our swing and got to do some fun things with Holly the Prez as my partner, kind of bouncing things around, doing stuff that we could play around and have fun with that would be weird and awkward if it was me and you there.
Yeah.
You know, just in terms of like talking about outfits, you know, I could, you know, because part of it I wasn't expecting her to give like much technical talk. I needed her to just be a bouncing board. So a lot of times I knew I had to pose questions to her to just sort of involve her and get her to open up.
Mm-hmm.
So by talking a little bit about the outfits, I'd get her to talk to sort of reprimand me a little bit. But then we would talk about, you know, why you set up this sort of match, you know, why you did this other thing, just to bring her in. And then when she got more comfortable, then I found that she actually did start jumping in when they were in positions and they were down on the ground, you know, then she started getting into it. And I was like, fuck yes. I was like, you know, because you could try to ask somebody to do that, but if they're not willing to go, you know, you can't. You could, of course, be like, oh, they're in a tough position here. What would you do, Holly, to get out of it? What do they need to do? But if she doesn't know, then you just throw a question, then it falls flat. But when you're talking about it, and when it was a part that she knew about, she started jumping in, and then it was just like, all right, cool. Now we're actually having that conversation that you need when you have two people on the headset and stuff. So, you know, all in all, it was good. I mean, there was definitely some weird parts, but all in all, it was really, really cool. And I mean, honestly, to get paid to call the thing in a different location, you know,
it's fun.
You know, it was really fun. And
I'm bummed.
You know,
I'm bummed I missed the story. I mean, I knew it was going to be just an absolute chaos at times.
It certainly was.
But I'm bummed I missed it, man. And I'm glad you got to experience it. And I'm glad you got to get your feet wet and play by play, man. Now you know you can handle it. And if for some reason I can't be there, there's no reason you can't handle it and be
like
there.
You said too. Our podcast. How'd you put it to two leading?
The only mixed martial arts podcast on the planet with two leading televised play-by-play broadcasters. How about that?
Ballin'.
I mean, come on. That just
ballin'.
We need to be up for World MMA Awards next year is all I'm saying. Step the game up.
Well, it is time for that, isn't it?
That's right. Make sure you get your votes in for the World MMA Awards. We are Media Source of the Year. We're there as MMA Junkie, and, of course, I'm there for Journalist of the Year. So vote us out. But next year, we got to get to Roach. I mean, when you got play-by-play broadcasters of our caliber, you know, it's funny. You said a couple of things there. First of all, I'll give you a little tip, and this is for anybody out there that might do some play-by-play. Something that I've learned over the years, because you will forget the rounds from time to time, is on my notes that you have, because obviously you got your notes. Definitely be prepared if you're ever doing broadcasting. Have your notes. But after each round, I'll write the round and I'll write my score for the round. That way, like, I don't.
Oh, so you can keep track.
That way I keep track of what round it is, and I keep track of what the score was. Because, you know, you might kind of forget, but you're like, oh, well, you know, round one, I kind of thought it was this way. So I write it down after every round. So a little tip there. The other
that
thing,
is a good one, because you do it becomes a blur.
Exactly. It becomes a blur, especially you're doing 3 in a row, man. It just all comes together. So just in your notes, write the round and who you thought won the first round, who you thought ran the second round. Little tip that I've developed.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story, and I've told this story before, so I apologize if people have heard this, but it made me think of it because it's so funny. You know, you talked about trying to set up your color person and trying to just ask him a direct question. My favorite story of broadcasting ever was the time I got to call fights with Royce Gracie in Brazil. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm with the legend, man. I'm with Royce Gracie. We're in Brazil. We're on the Bope Special Forces training ground. We got fights. This is amazing. And the very first fight we had, we were like 10 seconds into the fight, and the fighter had set up an omoplata 15 seconds into the fight. And I'm just like, looks like he just needs to sit up to get the finish here, Royce, you know, thinking, oh, my God, I've got Royce Gracie here to talk about, you know, the intricacies of the position and the whole. And he's just like, yes.
Oh, no.
I was just like, all right, well, that didn't work out quite like I thought. Let's get back to it. In my head, I'm like, this is a glorious moment. I'm about to tee up Royce Gracie, who's just going to walk us through the details. And he's just like, yes.
Wow.
You know, it's funny. So I was out there doing CFFC. If anybody missed CFFC 99, check it out on UFC Fight Pass. It was a good show. It ended up being very, very entertaining. But you talk about audio issues. We were in a smaller ballroom out there in Tunica as well, so we didn't have like the full crew that we normally had. And we didn't have our normal sound guy. And so we were dealing with some audio issues pretty bad to start with. And it was so funny because for the prelims, the headsets were useless. There was no audio playing through them at all. So luckily, our audio was feeding to the truck so that they could broadcast it out. So no problem. For anybody watching home, they're getting our audio, but we can't hear anything.
Yeah.
So I'm literally leaning over to CM Punk so that my ear is like next to his mouth so I can hear what he's saying, because we're in this ballroom. It's got like 1,000 people and it's just packed and it's loud.
The most awesome visual.
I mean, it was funny because the producer was saying, they're like, thank God you guys are actually like friends, and because like if you just like had two people working together that never worked together before, and you're like, hey, could you just lean right next to him so that you could hear him, you know?
Well, I guess maybe clue people in, because what we hear on the LLC is nothing. Me and you, when we do it, it's just us. So,
right.
So what do you normally hear in your ears when you're on a CFFC show?
CFFC show's got a nice setup, man. We've got the producers in our ear, so they're calling out things and they're giving us little tips and little information,
little tidbits about the fighters, little storylines.
Well, anything that they see, like if they know a replay or they know that they've got something teed up or they see something in a shot, they can let us know. So we've got the producers in our ear, but then we've got each other in our ear as well, so we can hear. We can adjust the levels too to how much I hear myself, how much I hear Punk, because you do like to hear yourself. It sounds weird for anybody that hasn't done broadcasting, but if you're talking and you can't actually hear yourself, it's weird. It doesn't sound right. But we were getting literally, it was just dead. It was like these things weren't even working.
You didn't have to bring your own audio gear?
Didn't have to bring my own audio gear. Thankfully, the fine folks at CFFC handle all that. So, yeah, it was a struggle at first, but we got it worked out for the main card, and we had fun. I didn't get to have as much fun as I wanted to, because obviously there's all these reports of Punk coming back to wrestling, right? Yeah. AEW wrestling. Friday night is supposed to be the debut. So
that's what everybody set you out there with a mission.
Oh,
right?
Everybody sent me out there to like get the details. I didn't even see Punk until like really just right before the show, because his flight got delayed. I got delayed going there. It was I got delayed. I landed in Memphis. And I'm sitting on the runway, and it starts raining on us like really bad. And so they're like, "Hey guys, sorry, there's lightning, so the airfield is closed down. We'll have to sit here and wait." And I was like, "Well, that's logical. You don't want to be out there, taxiing with lightning and stuff." So we sit there for like an hour, which kind of sucks, but whatever. I've got a cocktail in my hands and I've got internet. I'm fine. So I sat there for an hour. But finally, I can't really see where we are because I've got an aisle seat, so I can't really see out the windows. But finally, after an hour, they're like, "All right, lightning is passed. We're all clear. We can pull." We literally taxied for like 6 seconds. Like we literally just had to cross the runway and pull to the gate. I'm like, we sat here for an hour to move like 50 feet. I'm like, so that was me. And then Punk, because that same weather, Punk got delayed, so I didn't actually see him. So we didn't get to talk much. But we did have some on-air jokes about his wrestling turn. So still, I have actually no factual information whatsoever, because Punk,
when's he supposed to
supposed to be Friday night. So we're sitting here on Thursday as we normally do, recording the podcast. It's supposed to be Friday. So AEW. So we'll see what happens. I
think there's a few AEW fans that listen to this.
There's been a couple that have been telling me all about it. I guess I'm going to have to tune in and see what happens.
They are a good organization. Out of the ones that do it, like AEW's pretty
They do it good. That's what everybody says, is they're the hot ticket right now.
Yeah, so
I will say I did pay the price for my time in Tunica, Mississippi. So the first night we got there, we went and had dinner, and then we were all kind of hanging out, and there was no real place to hang out, so we just said, we'll just go outside. And people had bought some beer and, bought some other some cigars. Actually, we went out and we just sat in the parking lot because a couple people had trucks, and we just kind of tailgated out there.
Yeah.
But we suddenly noticed that the mosquitoes were getting a little bad. And I didn't realize how bad until the next day, because I feel like, and they're getting better. It's been about a week at this point, but there have to be 100 bites on my legs. I feel like I look like a meth head or something that just happens to shoot up in the legs instead of the arms.
You look like you got like smallpox.
Smallpox. There you go.
Or some other one. Yeah, I mean, your legs are freckled with bunch of mosquitoes.
I was gonna send a picture to the crew to show them what I look like, but it just looked so disgusting that I couldn't even take myself to take a picture.
You should send it to Patreon.
Send it to. All right, I will do that. I should
because it doesn't look that bad, but it does look bad. I mean, you can definitely tell.
It's better now.
It's annoying.
I mean, this is a week later. It's better now, but dude,
it's crazy. It still looks like that.
I will put a picture on Patreon.
It's funny. Like I think.
But here, you know what the worst part is? So finally, we're like, you know what? These bugs are getting bad. Let's go in. So we start packing up to go in, and Uncle Rudy, who's part of the crew there, he's like, oh damn, I didn't know you guys. He's like, I had bug spray right here in my truck, and I'm like, did you not see us like slapping and
for like the last hour?
What are you doing? He's like, I didn't even. He's like, they weren't bothering me. I didn't even see.
I sprayed before I went out.
I know that's. He's like, they weren't bothering me. I'm like, oh, no wonder you're glistening in the sunlight there in the moonlight.
It's funny. I think if you're in an area where you get bugged, where you get bitten, your body doesn't react the same way. Like I haven't been when we were in Florida when we first started the road show. The very
episode
first night,
number 1.
I hadn't been bitten by mosquitoes in years up to that point, but my body reacted very harshly because we got eaten the shit out of us. Like they ate us a lot, so our legs looked really bad. But I have to think that part of if you get bitten, your body doesn't react as poorly as it does if you stay away from it, maybe.
Right.
Unless the mosquitoes nowadays are just like radioactive, because looking at your legs, it looks like you got bit by like some serious mutant.
It's crazy, man. I actually made a joke, which maybe isn't that funny of a joke. I was like, you can't get COVID if you have malaria.
But you can probably.
You probably can, actually. Man, it was a fun trip, though. So, yeah, look, hey, we were in 2 different parts of the country having a little fun, doing different things, and now we're back together. Should say, by the way, good day for me, bad day for my wife. It's been a crazy day. I was supposed to have jury duty this morning, so we were going to do the podcast after I got done with jury duty. But I got an email last night that was just like, hey, you're not needed. Don't worry about it. Your jury duty has been dismissed.
Which is crazy. Like, most times you have to call that day, that morning.
I was supposed to call that night. I was supposed to call after 6. I got an email. I got an email at like 4:45. So it was an hour before I even had to call. I didn't have to call.
Mr. Morgan, this is Stills calling you to tell you that we have word that you don't have to go tomorrow.
That's it. I couldn't believe it, man. So I didn't have to go. So I'm like,
that's an award-nominated treatment.
Life is good. Life is good. I'm like, this is a good day. And then literally right before we were about to start recording here, my wife called me and she was crying and freaked out. She was driving down the road and she said a car sped past her, and as the car sped past her, her driver's side window just shattered, like just blew up. Glass fell on her. Luckily, none of it cut her or anything like that. But man, when she called, I was like, she's like, I don't know if they shot at me or what. And I'm like, are you okay? And she was like, no, I'm. But she was. I don't even think she knew if she was okay. She's okay now, thankfully. She wasn't hurt. Yeah. She's good. And maybe it was just a rock or who knows what it was. Hope knock on wood. Hopefully, it wasn't somebody shooting. But yeah, she freaked out, and it was scary. So I was just thinking, what an amazing day this is. Yeah. And then my wife's freaking out. So shout out to her that hopefully her day turns around.
That's crazy. But yeah, I'm glad she's all right. And she said she looked in the car and didn't see anything. So it could just be a freak coincidence. It could be a rock kicked up and it was just hit it from the outside.
Yeah, maybe it was the car sped by it.
Windows are so resilient, though. I mean, it has to be something traveling at a perfect, just a great speed, but because it didn't go all the way through,
right?
What you would think, like if it was a shot, it would maybe go through the whole thing, or if depending on the caliber, sometimes it might even just leave a hole and not actually bring the whole thing down. You never know, but it could just be a freak thing, or she hit something and didn't want to admit it and said that a car actually, she was actually backing out of the gym and bumped into something. I'm just kidding, but no, I'm glad she's right. But
if so, she is a phenomenal actress, and I need to get her in Hollywood immediately because she was freaking out.
She's been taking acting classes when you're on the road. You didn't know this, by the way.
Oh, too funny. Well, fortunately, she's okay, and we'll get the car taken care of. Luckily, everybody's healthy. We can always replace material. All right, well, that was our last week. It was fun. Like I said, two play-by-play broadcasters just bringing you some MMA talk. This week, we're covering UFC on ESPN 29, Cannonier versus Gastelum. Solid main event. I'll be honest. It's one of those weird ones where it's a good fight. I think it's got kind of different stakes for different people. Cannonier, certainly much more relevant right now in terms of the immediate title picture. I don't know that he'll necessarily earn a title shot with this win, but it'll at least keep him there. And he even said, this isn't necessarily the fight I wanted, but I just wanted to stay busy, and I wanted to make sure I was keeping wins going. Didn't know, by the way, that Jared Cannonier had to have a second surgery on that broken arm. I don't know how public that knowledge was, how much he had talked about it, but he talked about it in our media day. So good to hear that he's okay, but that's why it took so long to get him back, was he actually needed a second surgery to repair that arm that he broke against Robert Whittaker. Meanwhile, Kelvin Gastelum, 1-4 right now in his past 5 fights. Now, you're talking about, one of those was a fight of the year performance. One of those was also against Robert Whittaker, who, by the way, when you lose to him is not a bad thing. A lot of people lose to Robert Whittaker. You're talking about some top names, and obviously Kelvin has been in phenomenal fights. Our good buddy, Hot T, Oscar Willis, was saying, hey, do you think his job's on the line, that he could be cut with this? I don't think Kelvin Gastelum's job's on the line. I think, he's been the kind of guy to step up and fill in the difficult situations. He's put on good fights. He's been a company guy. I think you give him a little bit longer leash, especially, again, when you're talking about the names he's losing to. You're talking about the elite of the division. So I don't think his job's on the line. But
Darren Till.
Yeah.
Jack Hermanson,
Exactly.
Robert Whitaker.
Those are beasts, man. Those
legit,
are absolute beasts.
Legit
so,
dudes.
So I don't think Kelvin. I could be wrong, but I don't think Kelvin's job's on the line. But in terms of him remaining relevant and remaining in that discussion, this is a big win. This is a big kind of must-win type moment for him against an absolute monster in Jared Cannonier, who, and until he lost to Whitaker, I thought, was steamrolling his way to a title shot. Man, this guy was picking up big wins. So it's one of those fights that doesn't necessarily have immediate implications in the title picture, but I do think is a big fight for both guys.
Yeah, and I was torn both ways. It's funny after really sort of looking at it, my gut check was that going into our staff picks that Kelvin really needed to get this win, and that he sort of reinvigorated himself. Working with, anybody working with Triple C, immediately has a bonus up, multiplier of strength and charisma going into a fight. So I, as opposed to most people on our staff, I actually, even though it's kind of failed me this year, I actually picked Kelvin because I felt like he was going to go in there with more to prove and more to try to win.
Immediate need,
because I think as much as we might ask him the question of, do you need this? Is this make or break? Even though while he might say it's just another fight to us, I can't not think that he's going to go in there realizing that he needs to get this, or people are going to start asking him to get his walking papers or something. And there's no offense to Jared, Cannonier, and even outside of his injury, I think this is the perfect kind of fight for Kelvin, where it's a guy that is confident in his striking. He's confident that he wants to do the stand-up. But what we've seen from dudes is people that try to just stand up with Kelvin don't put Kelvin down.
Right.
Even if you call him Kevin through the whole media day.
He did call him Kevin.
Even though, who was it? Matt Wells had a killer, slack comeback. I don't know if you saw it. So he was saying, Kevin, and we're like, oh, man. And I think it was Simon Simano, our managing editor, that was like, oh, man, the disrespect, calling him Kevin. And Matt Wells chimed in and said, oh, well, he's going to give him the L tomorrow or something. I was like, oh,
solid trash talk.
Solid trash talk.
Solid trash talk.
But I just think this is one of those fights where this is a tough one for Jared to come back into as well, because if he, not that I would ever think that he would take Kelvin lightly.
You're not going to go in and overwhelm the guy.
And that's it. I think he's used to going there and kind of having his way when it comes to striking against the guys. And I think Kelvin's a tough individual. And I have to think that, with going back and working with new people and just sort of reinvigorating, and he always looks good, physically. I think he's kind of got that in check. We're not so worried about him anymore that he's not going to be able to make weight and show up for a fight. I just think that this is one of those fights that everybody's going to overlook him, and I think this has a possibility of Jared doing that as well, regardless of what he says. He looks at his ranking, he's like, hey, this is one of the guys that was on the possible list that I would be willing to accept, and he's the only one that jumped up for it, so I'm glad he took it, yada, yada, yada. But I'm just thinking, Jared, even though as he says that, it just feels like he kind of has, this was maybe a guy that was on his list, but this wasn't the guys that he was wanting to fight. So I don't think it's a guy that he's really kept up on and keeps looking, even though, there's a ton of stuff for him to see. I just feel like Jared's going to go in there thinking that he's going to have his way like with most people, and he will possibly, all it just takes him is to let his guard down at one point during this fight. Kelvin's the kind of guy that his power maintains. All these guys, their power maintains to the end. Kelvin, I just think, has a stronger chin on him, and I think with his wrestling and with working with the people that he's been with Triple C, I just feel like this is the kind of fight that he could steal one back that people expect him to not win.
I tell you what, man, you're laying out the case right, and I'm sitting here going back and I'm looking at Jared Cannonier's run. We think about this impressive run that got halted by Whitaker, but when you go back and look at it,
a lot of activity.
Well, listen, you're talking about David Branch, who then left the UFC. And
at that time, David Branch was a beast.
Well, no, but that was kind of the start of the tail end. You know what I mean? Right. So it was David Branch, who after that, you're right, Branch was a monster for a while, but after that loss, he went and lost 2 more, and I think that's all he's done.
Yeah.
I think he's 40 at this point. He beat Anderson Silva. No disrespect to Anderson Silva, but we know that's a faded version of Anderson Silva. He did have the win over Jack Hermanson, which obviously that's an impressive one. But you're right. Maybe maybe we're putting too much stock in the fact that he just looks like a physical specimen at 185 pounds.
And it's hard to discount that ranking that's up there. He just but he hasn't had a lot of activity to even do it. I think when I looked at it, he was like fighting like once a year or something like that. I mean, Kelvin, not that he's had a ton of fights, but I mean, he maintains some sort of activity level. He's been getting in there. And then the fact that we heard that Jared, his arm was more compromised than we thought it was.
Right.
You know, I know there's going to be, I'm sure he's going to have all the confidence in the world, but you have to think, you know, that that's going to be weighing on his mind at some point going in there. And heaven forbid something actually happened to the arm again, you know. He's going to be throwing that arm a lot against a guy that doesn't go down. I mean,
tell you what, man, I picked Cannonier. You got me second guessing
myself here, man. I think everybody picked Cannonier besides me.
You got me second guessing myself right now. That's the main. I'm intrigued by it. Like I said, I think it's going to be a good fight. This whole card,
it's a fight that means something at least, which is cool for those guys. I mean, like you said, it's not maybe the number one prospect fight, but these are the guys that are trying to hang on to, you know, just being relevant in that group. Because, like you said, you know, if Kelvin takes another loss, at that point, you start having the talks when people that we're having with like Rory. Is he still at the top?
What happened? Is he still not the guy
at
anymore?
The elite level? I mean, you know, of course he's still, you know, where they're being, but you know, people start putting those questions out there, you know, and I think anybody that has their foot to the flame when it's like that, I feel like I've been burned by this though before when I said that I was like somebody, you know, they have to show it and they didn't, and that could happen on this, and if that point happens with Kelvin in this one, then people will really start questioning: is this the kind of guy that you want to represent you in a main event? If he can't pull out a win,
it's a big moment for Kelvin Gastelum. Not necessarily contendership, but it's a big moment. I'm intrigued by this main event, and I'm intrigued by this fight card. The co-main event is interesting. So when they first announced Clay Guido versus Mark Matson, I was a little bit confused. I didn't really understand the matchmaking at first. I thought, wait, you're talking about one of the most experienced guys in the game against one of the newest guys in the game. I don't. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? And certainly because I don't think. I mean, I guess, you know, my thought was, or are they just using Clay Guida as the guy to use a wrestling term, to give Mark Matson the rub a little bit, right? And I didn't understand that, and I guess it could be possible. I mean, they know that, you know, Guida's not going to be around a ton longer, so it's fine to start giving some of that. But anyway, I thought it was a weird matchup. Then I started really liking the matchup the more I thought about it, because I know how much Clay Guida is a fan of wrestling. He coaches wrestling. He's wrestled his whole life.
Yep.
You know, he was even talking to us in the media day about you know, how well the U.S. Olympic team did, and you know,
he lives and breathes wrestling.
Absolutely, like he was walking us through the matches. You know, it wasn't like, oh yeah, they did good.
I just casually paid attention.
Yeah, no. He was like, you know, when he was up this many points, and then did that. Oh, you were really watching. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. So to him to be like against an Olympic medalist in Mark Matson is pretty cool. But Mark Matson coming away from a year and a half on the sideline, 17 months. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not know all that was going on, and I want to play that now because, you know, Mark Matson always, you know, he is a professional. He's well spoken. He's, you know, a great spokesman. He's all these things. He's, you know, but he's gone through some hell as of late, and I didn't know. You know, he's been on the sidelines for about a year and a half at this point. I honestly assumed it was just kind of like travel restrictions and that sort of stuff with everything that's been going on. It was much more than that. So. While I was intrigued by this fight, I got much more intrigued after hearing from Mark Matson because, man, I don't know how you can't be pulling for this guy after you hear this. Here was the Olympian here talking to us at Media Day. It's been a while, right? I mean, it's 17 months at this point. So what's the feel right now to be back?
It's been 17 months?
I think so.
Wow. Time flies. How does it feel to be back? It feels absolutely amazing. Can't tell you how proud I am, how thankful I am to be back. It might sound strange, but the last year, my family and I have been going through a lot of adversity. It actually started at my last fight. I broke my jaw early in the second round. I had to push through the fight. Went back home, got surgery on it. That surgery got infected. I needed a second surgery. When I thought I was ready to go again, I tested positive for COVID. When I was over that, we got the very unfortunate news that my wife was diagnosed with MS disease, which actually led me to call the UFC and ask for a leave. I mean, I had to take my full focus and put it on the thing that's going on with my wife and MS disease. And you would probably not believe it, but on top of that, our house had a serious water leak, which turned out to be a black mold infestation. So the last 8 months, my family and I have been relocated. I mean, talking about relocation means my stuff has been picked up over a process of 3 steps. So we actually have been living in a bag for the last 8 months. I can't stress how proud I am to be back, how grateful I am to be back, being able to go through what we as a family just went through the last year. I'm a 3-time Olympic medalist, 5-time world medalist. I've been competing at the highest level of sport most of my life. Right now, coming into this fight, this feels single-handed as the greatest comeback of my entire athletic career. I'm proud, I'm happy, and I'm excited. 6 months ago, I had no idea how, that's important, or whether I would be able to return to MMA. We were in a place where we had to deal with disease. I mean, this is UFC. This is the biggest MMA promotion in the world. This is where the best fighters in the world are competing. We talk a lot about champion mindset, overcoming adversity and stuff, and I believe I know how to compete. I know how to overcome adversity. But honestly, facing disease, facing a chronic disease, the symptoms that my wife was facing, I had to dig deeper than I've done ever before. We as a family have had to reevaluate, prioritize, say no to a lot of exciting stuff that was going on in our life just to focus on the really essential stuff, family and fighting. And now I'm back and I'm proud.
It's crazy, man. I had no idea whether you were going through so much. So, I mean, was there, you said 6 months ago, you weren't sure whether you would fight again. I mean, was there conversation of like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this anymore? How did that conversation go?
There's been absolutely no conversation of not returning to MMA. This fight, this opportunity is about proving to myself, more importantly, proving to my wife, that we won't let disease determine anything in our life. I mean, we have a chronic disease. My wife has a chronic disease that she has to deal with the rest of her life. That means I, as a husband, has to deal with that the rest of my life. One of her big fears with this diagnosis was that would actually lead to me not being able to fight anymore. That it would mean that we would not have the opportunities that we had. So this is actually about, proving that if we believe, if we dream, even though there's disease, we can still overcome and come after it. So this is about proving for my wife that anything is still possible.
Understandably emotional. I mean, when we talk about your wife, I mean, so I wonder, like, does this somehow make fighting like less important and just a small part of it, or does it make it even like more important? Like now this is some, platform, some opportunity. Where does fighting stand in your life now, knowing everything that you're dealing with outside?
I can't believe I'm sitting up here, supposed to be a tough UFC fighter fighting this Saturday, and I get emotional talking about my wife. That's crazy, right? I mean, this is it's been a crazy period. I mean, it's been challenging, but at the same time, we've come out with new insight. As a family, we've bonded in a different way. I mean, we have to put it another way, we have to find a way to make the last year the best thing that happened in our life. And right now I'm back. I have a fight. It's about going out there and then performing my best.
I'd like to get your thoughts. A lot of people look at Clay, of course they see his crazy striking style, but he also has wrestling as well. Obviously some people might look at you and say, oh, well, I have Olympic wrestling, or this guy, the wrestling's going to be not even close. But what would you say, and how would you rate Clay Guido's wrestling skills?
I'm going to show you how good Clay wrestling is on Saturday. I think that's the best way I can describe it. I come from a Greco-Roman background, which is what I've done my entire life. And Clay has folk style, freestyle, I think one of the great things that Fight Ready really can offer is great freestyle, great folk style. I think Clay has good wrestling, no doubt about it. I mean, it's a legend of the sport. He's been in the sport for a long time. He dominated his last fight with wrestling. I mean, this is actually what it's all about. I'm a wrestler. I'm a high-level wrestler. I'm in the UFC to compete with the best in the world. I mean, I'm fighting Clay Guida, the Carpenter. You know what I'm saying? This is about competing. It's about going out there and testing. I'm looking at putting on my best performance this Saturday. If I put on my best performance, I believe the best performance will beat Clay Guida. But I'm excited about going out there and actually learning how good Clay Guida's wrestling is.
And last one for me, I guess on the flip side of his wrestling, everybody thinks of some fights in the past where Clay just stands right in the middle and just throws nonstop, and he tries to lure his opponents into this rock'em sock'em sort of stand-up war. Is there any danger that you might get caught up in that sort of thing, or is there a part of you that says, I wonder if I got in that whirlwind, how I would do?
The only thing I can say is bring out the beer, bring out the popcorn, let's have a fight.
All right, there was Mark Matson. First of all, Cold Coffee, the reporter, continues to shine. Not only flourishing as a play-by-play broadcaster, but not, the questions that you throw in there as well. But man,
it took a long time. I didn't realize how long that my portion, like when I was doing our interview, I was because I was skimming through to try to find the clip that Simon asked, and I was looking for yours. I was like, oh, okay, my question is gonna be this way back in the back.
No.
And I was like,
nice little
oh
section.
wow, there was a decent little bit in there.
You had a nice little section. But man, listen, is it just me or can you and listen, I'm always going to cheer for Clay Guido. I love me some Clay Guido, man. Just this ball of energy, nice guy. I mean, he's fun to talk to, but how can you not be pulling for Mark Madsen now with everything he's gone through, man, and talking about kind of what this means to demonstrate to his wife, and holy God.
Like anybody off to the side talking shit in this fight, this is just like one of those, just a D-bag. Because there's like two great guys on both sides, but you're right. I mean, like when Clay was talking about how he had made that first UFC walk at like 264, and then when you do the math in your head, 265 just happened or whatever, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, dude's been around.
200 pay-per-views have went in his time that he's been here. And then just looking at him, you're like, wow, I could see another 100 going through because he looks in incredible shape. And I mean, the way he does it. But, there was something about Mark, too, talking about up there. Anytime you have these guys that are just such elite athletes, we always put them on a pedestal, for their physical prowess. But when you see those moments where we're lucky enough that they open up the window to their life and what they're going through to kind of share their moments, and seeing him get emotional talking about what him and his family went through, the stuff that his wife's gone through, and see how, he's supposed to be here focused on this fight, but all I could think about is his wife, and the stuff that she's going through. Like me being the asshole that I am, I was getting choked up.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy cow, like this is powerful stuff, So as he was saying, I was like, dude, I don't really know this dude, but I was like, I really like this guy after talking about it.
I mean,
just in terms of how he carries himself, and then let alone the struggles that they went through. And he was so positive. He could be really, it would be in his right to be as disgruntled and angry at the universe as anybody possibly. Yep. But he was able to persevere through that and get to this point, and that's the kind of thing that, a beacon of what people can look up to. There's a lot of people that are chosen for role models that shouldn't be role models and shouldn't be whatever because of fame, money, whatever. And then you see cats like this that work themselves up to represent their country in the elite of the sports, but also have proven themselves to be, a family person that cares about his family, working through whatever it needs to do to take care and provide for his family. And when it comes to his moment, all he could think about is talking about his wife.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, that is a good person.
And to say, we've got to take this and make it the best thing that could have ever happened to us. To say like that, it's just unbelievable, man. I'm so intrigued by that fight now for the personal reasons behind it. Obviously, stylistically as well. Mark Matson does look, obviously an Olympic medalist. You're a talented athlete. You know what I mean? He's still undefeated in his career. Working now with Captain Eric Albarracin out there in the corner as well.
Idea. So you got the captain in your corner.
That's big things. So
which is funny because it's two wrestlers, so of course it's going to be a striking match.
Oh, totally. They're just going to stand and bang. It's going to be unbelievable. It was funny to hear, in talking with Guido, I did ask him. I was like, but you really do want to get one takedown on him, right? He's like, of course. He's like, I got to take this dude down at least once, man, to show him what's up.
If not, he's going to be like, damn it, rematch.
He wants to get that takedown. I love it. So I'm intrigued by that. Like I said, I thought it was a little bit weird when it was announced, but now I'm all in on it. Yeah. Parker Porter versus Chase Sherman. That should just be like sloppy heavyweight fireworks. It should be fun. Chase Sherman, by the way.
Somebody's going to sleep.
Somebody's going to sleep. Chase Sherman cracked me up because I was looking at his Instagram before the media day. And this is kind of mean what he said here, but it did actually crack me up. He posted on Instagram, he said, 2 of my favorite things in life are putting people to sleep and a nice set of titties. This week I'll get to see both because he was talking about his opponent being a little overweight, a little soft in the.
That wasn't him that posted it.
Oh, that's right.
It wasn't him.
That was
the gorilla.
That was the vanilla gorilla. I asked about that. I was like, Chase, you're not normally a trash talker. I was like, that's kind of like subtle trash talking. He's like, yeah. He's like, that was the vanilla gorilla. It comes out of me. And by the way, he also he had some harsh words for Jason Witt as well. Witt was kind of joking. Remember saying I'm the vanilla gorilla, and he was like, ain't no man that's 170. He's like, I haven't been 170 pounds since I was in second grade or something.
He hasn't let up on that. That's pretty much what his line's been, going ever since. Now I love the fact that it just keeps trickling on. But at some point he's gonna reach his boiling point on that. But yeah, that's funny.
That should be fun. Like I said, somebody's probably going to sleep. Then another one that I wanted to alert people to: Trevin Jones versus Saidyokub Kakramanov. And if you're
done.
He fought for the CFFC.
Okay. I was like, bro, you just flew through that like butter. I'm like,
just say it fast and act like you know what it is. But so here's what's funny is if you're a hardcore and you know these fighters, you may say, oh well, John's about to tee it up here for Saidyokub. No, I'm not. I'm about to tee it up for Trevin Jones, and I'll tell you why. First of all, let's Trevin Jones.
So did I pick wrong? If I pick the other guy?
No. Listen, Saidyokub is legit.
Okay.
He won a title in CFFC. But I want to explain to you what Trevin Jones has gone through in case you're not aware. Trevin Jones was supposed to fight on July 24th against Tony Kelly. That fight was scrapped when Kelly had to withdraw. So they went scheduled him the following week, July 31st, against Ronnie Lawrence. Ronnie Lawrence was screwed up his weight cut, and that fight was ruled off. So they scheduled him again, August 21st. That's this week, against Mana Martinez. Mana Martinez had to withdraw. Of course, he lost his coach, and that's the reason he pulled out of the fight. Completely understandable there. There was some things behind the scenes. So Saidyokub Kakramanov steps in on less than a week's notice, and Trevin Jones has had to deal with this the whole time, and he talked about the challenge. But I just love his attitude. I love his mindset. But hear from him a little bit about what he's had to do to get to this fight, and tell me you're not cheering for him a little bit on fight night. This is 5-star Trevin Jones.
Trevor, it's been quite the journey to get a fight, and I don't even know if we'll have a fight yet, right? I guess we'll keep your fingers crossed at this point. But I mean, what is this time been like for just rescheduling and changes and all this for the past couple of months?
Man, it's been crazy. I've just been trying to fight. I flew all the way from Guam, and I need to fight, man. I could have easily took my little money and went home and said no, but I got goals. I'm here to fight, and the goal is to get a fight and go home, and that's always the goal. I'm here to be the best guy in the division. I'm not just here to join the party and then go home and say I hit the UFC. So I'm here to fight, and I'm still trying to dig for that fight.
That's awesome. How difficult has it been just you're always trying to peak for this one day, right? And that day keeps changing. So how difficult has that process been, just keeping yourself in the proper shape?
Yeah, that's been the hardest part. Just dialing in. It's been hard. I had about 6 names this particular fight. So it's been a real roller coaster. But yeah, man, I got a good team behind me. They tell me to stay focused. My boys are very strong-minded, so am I. And it's all about the strong mind at this point. We believe we have all the tools to fight anyone in the division. So at the end of the day, we can't just say that. When it comes to a new opponent, we have to believe that. So that's all I'm doing. I'm believing I have all the tools, and no matter who's in front of me, I believe I can give them a tough fight. And, you know, yeah, the outcome could come any way, but like I said, I'm here to fight. I flew all the way from Guam. My family, everyone was here for the first time of the fight when I was supposed to fight. They're still here right now, so we want to fight, and the goal is to get a fight, and we're going to get this fight.
That's awesome. Do you even bother like scouting the names anymore? Like when they give you a name, do you look them up and see what kind of fighter it is, or are you just like, yeah, just give me somebody?
When they gave me this new name, I didn't really look it up. I was like, man, I just need to fight. Yeah, I look up my guys. I see where I need to change my game to all the time. Some guys are talented in different areas, so I got to hit them with something different. But for the most part, yeah, I have my skill set. I have some tools I've been working on for this fight, and I got to just implement my game plan and go out there and get it done.
So you do tweak the game plan a little bit for each opponent, or do you just go, well, hell, at this point?
Of course, I never fight one opponent the same. If you're fighting every opponent the same, then you're going to get exposed sooner or later. So I never fight one opponent the same. Maybe I might break out the same skill set because I see he was the same as my last opponent or opponent that I fought in the past. But no, I don't fight any opponent the same. And if they have the same style, maybe I might be able to use that style again that I used to beat him. But no, you don't want to fight anyone the same.
How far is the trip from Guam? How long does it take to get here?
About 22 hours.
What's the route that you have to go?
I go from Guam to Hawaii, Hawaii to Los Angeles to here, and then or it can be Guam to Japan, Japan to Los Angeles, which is that 14-hour flight, and then another hour flight to here. So yeah, it could be quite brutal, man. But when your mind's set up and you train so hard, nothing's gonna beat that.
That's awesome. You said you got family with you. How much family's here with you?
I got my brothers, my coaches. I got my cousin coming in. I have so many people coming in. I have my aunties in them here. Hopefully they come back on fight night. And I got my brother's kids, my brother's wife. Everyone's here right now. So we're looking to enjoy this Saturday night.
That's crazy. So they had just kind of had to put their life on hold for a little bit too?
Their life has all been on hold. There was more people here before. Some of them got jobs. They got to go back home. But yeah, they're going to try and get back out here as soon as this fight is fully a go.
That's awesome. So talk to me about the goal in the fight, man. I mean, you go out there, obviously we've seen you do spectacular things. I mean, do you go in with the mindset saying, like, I got to be spectacular, or do you just go in saying, I just got to pick up a win?
A win is always good. Of course, I want to be spectacular. Who don't want to be spectacular? But, yeah, man, some of these guys see I got 6 losses. Like, I got 5 split decision losses. Like, I'm a 19-1 fighter. I fought around the world. I fought in more countries than any of these guys. I fought in 7 different countries. I know what it's like to do great and be mad at yourself and the outcome didn't go your way, but I feel like I won all those fights. So going into these fights, I feel like a 19-1 fighter. I don't care what anyone else says. I don't care if they say, Trev, you have 6 losses. I'm 19-1 when I go out there. And yes, I bring that mindset into the fights. A lot of these guys say Trevor don't have a high output or what. Like, these guys aren't pros. I'm a pro. I take my time. When I see the opening, I'm going to capitalize on the opening so they can go out here and do whatever they want. I'm a pro. I take my time, and I'm going to find my opening and chance to get the fight done.
That's awesome. Last thing for me, I mean, obviously you just want to get this fight under your belt and get home, I'm sure. But are you thinking about what comes next? I mean, knowing that what you've had to go through for this fight, are you trying to, like, spend some time at home and chill for a bit? Or are you like, hey, let's turn around, do it quick, build the momentum? What's the plan moving forward?
Well, I cut weight. This is my third weight cut for this month. Like, I've been on weight 3 times this month. Yes, it's been horrible. It's been horrible. I never kept my weight this low in my life. I'm proud of myself for that. But yeah, I probably want to come back in the November or December. Of course, I want to come back. I want to get 3 this year. I don't want to stop my goals. Like I was saying, this is a goal for me. This is not just someone that want to be in the UFC and be hip hip hooray. Like, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to be the champion, and I'm here to be the best.
All right, well, as Cold Coffee was happy to point out to me afterwards, I may have cursed Trevin Jones right there, by the way I started that. But I just thought it was, I was trying to keep it light, keep it jovial, because I know the guy's been through it. But, man, I just love his attitude about getting through this particular situation and just the way he looked at his whole career. So, and he's definitely got skills, man, as he laid out there. He's got skills. So, now here's the flip side of it. So you might say, well, John, you always got that CFFC love. You always got that CFFC
You've
love.
never been one to homer for the CFFC guys.
Saga Cup came through CFFC, and you're not homering for him. Okay, I'm not saying there's hard feelings there, but when he won the belt, he basically was doing his interview with CM Punk, and he was like, yo, man, F this belt. I don't want this belt. He's like, I want to be in the UFC. And it was like, I see what you're saying there. I see what you're saying there. But maybe there's a gentler way of saying, like, hey, man, I really appreciate this belt, but this is not my ultimate destination. This is not my ultimate goal. This is an accomplishment along the way.
Yeah.
He was literally like, I mean, it was like he just wanted to throw the thing in the trash. I think
like
Punk was going to
pee
be
on
like,
it or something.
well, I mean, you can just give it right back to us then. I mean,
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
if you don't like it. So I'm not cheering against the guy. It's just that, I mean, the guy basically kind of he verbally urinated on our title at CFFC. So
Hey, buddy, what I took from that was that, hey, I'm a champ. I'm a winner. I win things, and I need to make up ground because you've opened up quite the gap with the rest of the team.
I'm not gonna.
So
I'm
as
not
well
gonna jinx
as
it.
being,
I'm not gonna
as you
jinx
said it, the only podcast with two leading broadcast television play-by-play guys, you as well have the guys leading the stat picks. Well, I'm number 3.
Oh, you're number 3 now, but
Yeah.
you're tied, right? Or you're like
Or
one
tied,
behind?
whatever.
It took me 2 out of the top 3 on one podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're bringing that high level analysis.
Oh boy!
No.
If I was a gambler, I would just put this podcast on lockdown.
Just whatever they said, go with that. Yeah, see, come on, man. There's no reason not to be listening, and that's why we should say now. Look, if you are listening and you like what you're hearing so far, do us a favor. Make sure you jump in, you sign into whatever you listen to. You take a moment to rate us, review us. You make sure you subscribe, of course. I personally listen to Apple iTunes. That's where I listen to my podcast. You could be like the man Limpio Muebles, who just said 5 stars, titled it John Morgan is easy listening. Thank you there, and said very helpful MMA talk. And that's right, it is very helpful. We can help
You forgot that other. He also put below that I was easy on the eyes.
Oh, he did. You know what?
It's
I didn't have it all the way
small
expanded
print,
there. Yeah,
small print.
you saw it.
You had
You
to
saw it.
really zoom
I
in
won't even
for
bother ringing it out there because you saw it already, clearly. Or, by the way, if you want to take your game up to the next level, which we would really appreciate that, help support the show financially. Because obviously we do this show for free. We understand not everybody has a few bucks to spare, and that's fine. We're still going to bring that free entertainment to you. But if you do have a couple bucks to spare,
Whether you want it or not, we're going to give it to
we're
you.
delivering it to you every damn week. You can head on over to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow, where you can sign up for as little as $3 a month to help support the show.
Roadies.
You can go as high as $10 a month if
Yeah.
you want. I mean, you could go higher if you want.
That's the Ryan Benoit
I
level.
mean, the baller status,
Baller
straight
status.
baller status.
That's just straight baller status. I actually have a set of keys set outside. Should he ever want to come to Vegas and
It's
just come
there,
in the house?
bro. You can take
Just
my
come in.
car.
Just
Take my
come.
car.
Yeah, take the car.
You
It's
can stay
okay.
here. It's all
It's
good.
okay. If you could fix, it's got some issues right now, but if you could fix that, it's cool. You can still borrow it. You can still borrow it.
You can sign up to support us over there. That gives you exclusive access to the and-a-half episodes that we do after every single UFC show. Plus, it allows you to chime in with some questions in a segment that we like to call
Roadmap. I literally was like, I'm gonna put something together, and then I think I went out drinking instead. I was like, you need to go out. You've been
That
working hard.
is the story of our
That's the
life.
story of our
Like,
life.
I was going to do that.
One of these days, in 2023, I swear I'm gonna have something done by then.
Full laid out track, just all done.
But it's funny because it literally is only going to last for seconds, but whatever. By 2023, it should happen. But yeah, man, let's jump into the roadmap. Thank you guys for submitting them and then allowing me to delete them and then refine them and then repost them on there.
Also drinking.
I wish I could blame other things, but that's just me being me. How about we jump into? I know you took a look at. Well, first, Joe's question is more of a comment. But since we already talked about the laundry stuff, I would go on to say, when this question of, should we see my face on any mat, maybe a toilet mat or on the floor mat so you can walk in and wipe your feet off are about the only thing. I don't think we're going to ever see that. But I love the fact that the circled around has caught on because that's some serious high statistical analyzing breakdowns of fights. If you hear that, that means the quality of the fight is just off the charts.
Joe
and that's all
Lucente
you
has
need to
picked up on when you chime in.
He's chimed in. He's got it. He's got it. All right, so let's jump to Muna's question. He says, I promise to be more positive with my questions in the future, but I was wondering as media, and this kind of goes to what I already was putting Mark Madson's thoughts in my head earlier, just seeing emotion, but even though it's on a different level. As media, since you guys are up close with these fighters and see certain things and the general public doesn't, how hard is it to see fighters who are a little bit past their prime, still trying to hang on for a paycheck? You see these fighters at their peak and watch their bodies and mind deteriorate at the end of their careers and can't be easy. I think about this as I watch Diego Sanchez leaning towards the BKFC, or Rory, who has the future of MMA, now looking to be on his way out, not to mention many others at the end of their careers. And so when I said Mark, I mean, even outside, granted it's slightly different because we're not talking about a person at the end of his career, but we're seeing emotions. We're seeing things from these fighters that later on we'll go back and we'll it's part of these things that runs in like this visual card, what do you call those cards, Rolodex of like memories and stuff. Like that's the stuff, like we've done countless thousands of interviews, but it's like little things like that tend to stick in there.
Absolutely. Sticks out more than the fights themselves.
Sticks out more than the fights themselves. And with your question here, in these moments where we see people where we notice it, that's one of the other things that sticks in there. When you see these cats that, granted, first when we started, or even, take a Diego, as you referenced here, and throw him 10 years prior, was like a young, even though he still looks pretty young, even though you could see the wear on him, was just this like sort of young, cheeky, just, full of life dude. And you remember his energy, you remember his positivity, you remember everything that sort of bubbled out. And then when you see him now and you see him a little bit slower to react to some things, sometimes it could be more, he's maybe more introspective, maybe he's more thinking out, try not to blame it all too much on the other stuff. For me personally, since I've always been more invested in the characters of this sport as opposed to, say, some of the fights. I love the fights. I love that whatever. But honestly, I mean, I wasn't a huge MMA fan before I got into the sport, but it was the fighters that I met while working with the UFC and other stuff that drew me further into the space. It was their personalities. It was their everything about them. And when I see that now, when I see changes has happened over the years, I mean, to be honest, I mean, it hurts a little bit. I mean, I would feel that as for any close friend or anybody I've seen that suffers some sort of something that alters their personality a little bit, you always feel like somebody's off for a little bit, or, and you don't really think about it, but you just know something different, but you still have a lot of, you still care for the person, you still other stuff. And it's weird to say, oh, I see these things in fighters, but yeah, you still care for them. It's like, but unfortunately, I mean, when you do the sport like we do and you see them time after time and you hear the stories of the struggles they go through, you hear about the stories with their family that they're going through and all this other stuff, you would have to be a robot to never get personally invested in these people. And when I say that, I mean, I like both fighters. I don't, even if I see some that I have liked or have hung out with, or, something that's reached the level where I consider them a friend, or, as close as a friend as could be with still trying to be impartial, whatever. Right. It's, you feel for them. I can still watch a fight and be like, man, I really hope my boy, I'll homer for my dudes, but I'm not going to hate on the guy that beats him. When Derek fought Cyril Gane, of course, I'd love Derek to win. I mean, Derek's been here at my house, has eaten food from my kitchen, has played my Xbox. His team's here, Heather absolutely loved him. But then so when I see him, of course I homer for him. But then if he loses, I'm like, fuck, Cyril, good job. Like, Cyril's never done anything. Cyril's a great person,
That's a great example. And, the same, and another one for me on that same fight card was Michael Chiesa, right? Like, Chiesa is such a good dude. And obviously him and I have worked together a couple times on some commentary gigs. And so because of that, we have a relationship. We talked quite a bit out at Fight Island, while we were out there, because we were both stuck out there for a long time. I consider him a friend. But, I mean, how can you be mad when he loses when it's such a phenomenal performance? Right. You know what I mean? And how can you be mad at Vicente, dude? Yeah. I mean, that dude's like the nicest human being on the planet.
Literally one of the nicest guys.
Yeah, it's absolutely. But and it is hard. It's very hard. You develop relationships with these people, and like you said, it's not always try to make sure, like you said, we're walking the line, we're doing it the right way. But you can't help it. As you said, you mentioned like their families and stuff. Some of these guys that go out there, Damian Maya, for instance, right? Like we know Damian Maya towards the end of their career. Like I get scared when he goes out there. I'm like, don't let anything bad happen to Damian Maya. Cowboy. You're just, oh please. It is hard. It's hard. But the other thing is too is, and it's kind of the bad thing about this sport is that at the end of your career is when you're making the most money, because those paydays, other than when you come off of a title win, obviously your payday goes down.
Yeah.
But those incremental values seem to rise. So it's like, man, you want those people to make that money because that their earning potential. Hopefully they've invested in some businesses. Hopefully they've set themselves up for the future, but they haven't. They're not going to be able to walk in there and make those big paychecks anymore. Now they got to scratch and claw and get the little appearance fee here, a sponsorship fee here. So you want them to. It's hard to tell somebody like walk away now, because you want to see them have those opportunities. And the other thing too is like you see, they'll never admit it, but you see like the mental doubt start to creep into guys, and you know what I mean, where you see that they know and they're questioning themselves and they're not. It's hard, man. It's this sport, man. As much as I love it, man, it is hard, man. It is an emotional roller coaster. Like you saw Paige Van Zandt talking about coming out that she was saying that she's talking about suicidal remarks. You know what I mean? Like that's how intense this sport is, and it's tough, man. It's tough. It's why it's funny. Like people are always like, "Do you want your son to fight?" And I'm like, "Hell no, I don't want my son to fight." But I still have all the respect and passion and love for the sport. So it's to answer your question, it's hard, man.
It's really
absolutely hard
because it's tough to just I think it would be tough for anybody just even to look at it and to try to separate your own sort of emotions, because I think part of what I think draws people to MMA and to watch this stuff is the people doing stuff to overcome fears and do things that we never thought we ourselves could do, and we're so entertained and just amazed by the discipline, the dedication to the physical side of it, but also being able to overcome and just have the mental side. And so I think we're always, whether you want to admit it or not, are in awe for what these people do. They're like everyday little bit of superheroes that are willing to go out there and face fear on and do it. So when you see that sort of decline, it's hard to have it not affect you. I think even if somebody had never met somebody, I think it would affect somebody that they respect and they watch. It hurts. It hurts to see that a little bit. So then when you actually get to see him and you interact with it a little bit, I think it's just compounded. But honestly, that's the stuff that stands out more than anything, is just seeing their faces, hearing their stories, and it's hard to not notice when you see some sort of a decline or some sort of something, or when you get those moments. I still get, I get choked up on some retirements.
Oh yeah,
when
man.
people walk away, because I'm just like, holy fuck, that I'm not going to see this person fight again. And I when they do it on their own terms and everything is good and they have things going, I'm like, man, that's awesome. They're going to ride and do whatever. But then I'm like, I'm going to miss the fight weeks where we all get to sort of hang. Granted, things are a little bit weirder now where interactions now getting back a little bit, but media days and a lot of the other stuff, we would spend days and days just getting in there, and we would literally be a couple feet away from these guys doing these interviews, seeing them when they're struggling on a weight cut or doing whatever.
I feel like we're documenting a chapter of their lives. You know what I mean? Because we're there. Those fight weeks are chapters in their lives.
Right.
You talk about those retirements, man. I've kind of made that as the unofficial media rule that's the one time it's okay to clap in a press conference. You know what I mean? Like, we're really not supposed to do that. That's not me. But when people when they do give that retirement speech, when they come back to the back and they talk to us that one more time, I think that's the time that's okay to give them. Don't let them walk off to silence where it's just like, all right, thanks, and you walk. No, give them that round of applause, that appreciation of, thank you for what you've done for us, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
so.
And we should do that more often, because I think it's tough, because I think a lot of us are still like, I'm clapping, but I'm like, man, I'm hurting. How weird is that? We do this for work, but, and the crazy sport that it is, this is one of the things. It's hard to not let it somehow affect you. I think everybody's affected by it in some way, even if it doesn't. That's not just media people. I think fans are just as much invested with a lot of these cats. They spend the time to spend their money to watch them. They watch all the interviews. They watch all this other stuff. And I guarantee Muna, even when he's watching this, gets affected, and he watching. I think every person does it, and we're no different. Every little bit affects you. So, Good question. That's a good question. I mean, that's one of those things I think we could talk a lot about just for the fact of like the emotions and a lot of the other kind of stuff. So,
I got a question here from Enrique Ortiz. He didn't put this on the thread there on patreon.com/The MMA Roadshow. So if you want to participate in this, if you want to help drive the podcast, if you want the roadmap, if you want to lay that out for us, jump on over to patreon.com/MMA Roadshow. Enrique Ortiz, he reached out. He said, "Hey John, I had a question I could really use your help on. You said previously on a podcast that Petr Yan technically should have tied or beaten Magomedov back in the day, but the official results were never changed due to a point deduction not being scored. Would you mind going into more detail on that anytime soon or on the podcast with his fight coming up?" And yes, so Petr Yan, for anybody that doesn't know this, was handed his first career defeat. And I guess, I don't know, depending on how you want to look at it, you may stay still his only career defeat. I know a lot of people are still a little salty about the whole disqualification thing, to Magomedov back in March of 2016 in an ACB show. That was a split decision. They would rematch in April of 2017. Petr Yan would win by decision to win the title and revamp it there. But what happened in that score was, and actually, Enrique, if you'll check your messages, I actually sent you a copy of the scorecards. I guess if anybody else wants to see them, I could find a post. There's a link. These scorecards are actually still posted online. They're kind of hard to find, but if you add the link, you can see them. But what happened was he was deducted a point. Petr Yan was deducted a point in the 5th round for a headbutt. It was a little bit of a controversial call, but nevertheless, the point deduction was there. But if you look on the scorecards, you'll see that 2 judges scored the 5th round 9-9. When you're a judge, you're not supposed to add the deduction. You still say 10-9, and then the scorekeeper takes the point away because they've been notified there's the point. So the scorekeeper will take the point away. But they scored it 9-9. So those 2 judges that had it, giving Yan rounds 2, 3, and 5, with the deduction, they have it as 47-47. So they have it as a draw. Okay, but the scorecards get turned in. The judges deduct a point, and then the scorekeeper deducts a point as well. Oh. So now you've got a 2-point deduction, and that ends up being basically 46, 2 times 47, 46. So it was read out as 2 scores in favor of Magomedov at 47-46, when it actually should have been 47-47. So it was announced as a split decision loss. It actually should have been a majority draw. So he should have been undefeated going into the fight with Aljamain Sterling. Now, they did appeal it, but ACB denied the appeal, and there's not exactly an athletic commission over there to handle these things. Things just get handled, if you know what I'm saying. They just get handled.
No one loses face over there.
There you go. So hopefully, I know it may be a little bit difficult without seeing the actual scorecards. If you're interested in them, I can put the link up on patreon.com/The MMA Roadshow as well. But I did send that to you, Enrique. So yes, the original fight with Magomedov should have actually been a majority draw, but unfortunately that 5th round point deduction was deducted twice. So hopefully that makes sense. It was a story that I really kind of wanted to write because I thought it was intriguing. Like, this is a guy. It's kind of like John Jones should be undefeated. You know what I mean? And so this was, to me, is like Petr Yan should be undefeated. And it was a story I wanted to write about, but just never really had time to do it. And then you have the DQ loss to Aljamain Sterling, and now I don't know if the story is quite as sexy as it would have been. It's like, well, he should be undefeated, but he does have a disqualification, and this should have been. So it kind of lost. So I'll probably never write about it, but he should be undefeated. All right, what else you got, Coach Coffee?
All right, well, this one, it's more just like I think maybe sort of a discussion, or Joe H-Town just poking at Dana like he likes to do.
Joe from H-Town does like to poke at Dana.
Yeah, he says, thanks for helping us go viral, Morgan. Dana talks about not making guys get the vaccine, but he makes them wear what he wants, say what he wants, drug tests, and just about everything else. Why the 2 different orders? I assume he says why the 2 different orders, but why the 2 orders?
Joe's always trying to stir the pot with Dana. Yeah, listen. First of all, the viral clip he's talking about is I was having a little fun with CM Punk, and there was a fight on the prelims where a fighter continued to take down his opponent, and I was like, Punk, look at this man returning to his wrestling. You see what I'm saying, Punk? Returning to his wrestling. And Punk, without missing the beat, just drops, looks all elite out there. So dropping the AEW name in there. So, Joe clipped that out, and it did start to make its way around the internet a little bit. So Joe from H-Town taking things viral. All right, as far as Dana White maybe not necessarily being consistent in how he addresses these certain situations, you know what's happening here. Come on, man, you get it. You listen, the vaccination thing, you can't, right? I mean, you can't. I mean, everybody's trying to do their best right now. You can't get into places without vaccinations, but everything I've seen is that athletes, performers, et cetera, are going to be given exceptions for this stuff, and that's what's going on right now with like Madison Square Garden. If you look at the law that's up there in New York, everybody has to have the vaccine to be indoors in venues, but there is a written policy that says, except that if you're not part of the crew there, if you're like a touring act, whether it be a musician or an athlete or whatever else. So this is a particularly sensitive topic for people. Obviously, we've seen people not wanting to take the vaccine, so to try and require them to take the vaccine, that's just not going to work. But yeah, as far as the rest of telling them what to wear, he doesn't. I will say this. Joe says say what he wants. I will say this. Dana does a pretty good job of staying out of the telling people what or what not to say. But as far as, you're absolutely right, drug testing, wearing the uniforms, absolutely. But you know what? I have a hard time battling this stuff anymore, man. These fighters, there's a lot of talk right now about fighter pay and what's fair and what's right. They got to get together and do something about it, man. If they're not going to get together and do something about it. And I had somebody the other day, kind of chastising me for going too soft on Dana about fighter pay or whatever. It's like, listen, man, I'll get the quote, I'll get the response. We'll ask the questions, but these fighters, man, they got to organize, man. They got to do something, and I worry that's not ever going to happen. But we'll see. All right, listen, real quick, the remainder of the main card at UFC on ESPN 29. Austin Hubbard versus Vince Pichel. I think that's going to be a fun fight. It's about a toss-up according to the odds makers. Vince Pichel, love talking to that guy, man. He's got the fantastic mustache, and he's got a great attitude. That interview is definitely worth checking out. He's just an interesting character. And then a key flyweight matchup, Alexandre Pentosa versus Brandon Royval. That should be a barn burner of a fight, and a big one at flyweight as well. You remember we talked to Brandon Moreno down in Houston, and he said, I don't really see a number one contender right now, a clear cut. He's not really that intrigued by the Devison Figueiredo trilogy right away. He's like, dude, I just want to fight somebody else, but I don't see a clear number one contender right now. This would be a big fight, to say the least. So fun main card. Listen, I want to play one more piece of audio for you this week. I had a chance to catch up with Miesha Tate. Miesha is actually part of the Invicta FC 44 broadcast next Friday. That's August 27th. She's joining in the booth with Eves Edwards and TJ DeSantis. No longer on Fight Pass. They're actually on Fight TV now, so it's a pay-per-view event. But the prelims will be free on Invicta's YouTube channel, so if you want to watch them there, you can do that. But, listen, the fine folks at Invicta were like, hey, would you like to catch up with Miesha Tate? She's part of our broadcast team now, and you don't turn down a chance to catch up with Cupcake, right? Come on. So caught up with Miesha Tate. Of course, we talked to her about her role with Invicta, but we did talk to her about everything else that's going on with her career and what's happening. So here's Miesha Tate.
So Miesha Tate, I got to ask, you just you can't sit still, can you? You got the fighting, and now you're booking another job. You're going to be doing commentary at Invicta next week. So how does it feel to be taking on another role these days?
Oh man, I know. I just think I love hats. I just want to wear as many as I can. No, it's I'm really excited though, because I kind of dabbled. It's really the first place that I dabbled with commentary, So was Invicta back in the day, and recently they just celebrated 8 years, and I just thought, hey, Shannon and I go way back, the founder, CEO of Invicta. She was working at Strikeforce, and she was always somebody I remember who was just the little pit bull that would go to bat for the fighters. Nothing has changed. She is still that woman, and now with an even more important presence. She is her own boss, and she's helped so many women elevate their games and get to where they need to be, because truthfully, she's right. We don't get the competition to build the resume to get to the journey wherever we want to be, whether it's Bellator, whether it's One Championship, whether it's PFL, whether it's, look at Kayla Harrison. She's just struggling to get that competition in there. And the same, to get to the UFC or get to these platforms. She's just created such a great foundation for so many fighters that if you've worked with her or been around her in any capacity, you truly understand her passion for the sport, and that she's one of the good guys. And I appreciate that. So I'm really looking forward to working with her again.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you touched on some things that I did want to ask you about with Invicta, right? Because, a few years ago, there just wasn't any women's fights at all. So it was a really needed platform. Now, there's a lot of divisions. There are a lot of places, but I think you touched on it, right? I feel like girls are almost getting rushed a little too fast to the UFC, a little too fast to Bellator, a little, wherever it may be. It's like they're in the spotlight at 3-0 or something and trying to learn on the big stage. So I wonder if maybe the role of Invicta has changed a little bit, but if it's still maybe as relevant as it ever was, even when there weren't these women's divisions.
I mean, we need places for women to go and get experience and real experience too. Because when you get to the UFC, it's very sink or swim, and sometimes it's a one-shot deal. It's a one-chance opportunity. My buddy and training partner Kai Kamaka, he just got cut, and he took like two of those fights I think were short notice, or maybe all three were short notice fights, and it's just very unforgiving. Business is business. Either you sink or you swim, and same thing goes here. So now these women have this great platform to do, and a lot of them have chosen to stay because they're treated really well there. She's awesome. I mean, I'm talking about like gift packages in your room. Like, you could just tell it's a female run promotion. Like, you know what I mean? She's a mother, she's a woman, she's thoughtful. Like, there's like bath bombs you get in there, and there's like the gift set and the welcome to Kansas City. I mean, she's just such an awesome person that it's always really fun and a pleasure to work with I want to say like-minded woman, because she's been somebody who really I have looked up to through the fight game, just as a businesswoman with her smarts, but with her no bullshit attitude, and she doesn't take any crap from anybody, and she goes out and she gets what she wants done. And I remember when she was kicking this off 8 years ago, and I remember thinking, I'm just not sure the world is ready for this. I'm not sure the MMA community is ready for an all-female show. I wanted her to succeed so bad, but I feared that she would run into all kinds of hurdles, and I'm sure she did, but she jumped them, and she's still well on her way 8 years later. So I'm just excited to get back in the mix and get to be a part of this again. And I'm going to go back and see how much hopefully I've improved with my commentary since then. I've been doing the radio show. I've been kind of learning how to slow down and deliver better. So I'm very excited to do this Invicta FC 44 to commentate for it.
That's awesome. So were you actually like actively looking to kind of get back into commentary again, or did they just come to you and you said, well, why not? Let's put more on the plate?
All right. Yeah. I'm not busy enough. I wasn't looking for it, but it is something that I would like to do at some point down the road. So my hair's all crazy and wet. I just showered. It came from training to talk straight on this interview. So please excuse my informalities, but
we'll deal with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys, you get the real deal when it comes to me. So anyways, no, I wasn't looking for it. I was not looking for it at this time, but it is something that I want to do. So of course, when it came across my way, Shannon shot me a message over on WhatsApp, and she's like, hey, would you be interested? I'm like, absolutely. We actually tried to make this happen one time before, but it didn't work out for whatever reason. I can't recall. So this time, date-wise, it worked out, and I'm so excited. I'm excited to watch the ladies fight. They always throw down. I mean, I think each woman here knows that there's so much on the line, and we got 2 title fights and a lot of good action. A couple of girls that I'm, ladies that I'm more familiar with, and some that I'm really learning about for the first time.
Yeah, no question. It's a nice mix. I mean, as you said, Invicta's done a great job of developing kind of newcomers to the sport, but they're also doing taking some veterans and getting them some more experience as well. So it's a nice card. Are you hardcore research, like watching tape and reading up on these things, or do you just go and say, I'm Miesha Tate, I'm former UFC champ, I know the game. We'll just talk about what we talk about?
I'm confident that once the fight starts, I'll be able to break it down very well for everybody. But of course, I want to know these ladies. I don't want to just talk about fight. I want to be able to give a little history. I want to be able to really delve into who they are as a person, because it's fun to follow a storyline, even during a fight, right? The reason why you might be a little more interested in this one, or root a little more for her, or you might identify with this. So certainly I'm getting familiar with these women, looking at them on Instagram and following their social medias and watching their interviews and kind of seeing where they're at in their careers. So I'm having fun learning about them, and I hope to deliver more than just during the fight knowledge. I want to, me, I always like to do my job the best I can do it. I was putting pressure on myself, whether it's mommy or fighter or, radio, Sirius XM radio show host or all that stuff. I definitely do my fair share of research.
Yeah, no question. And now the thing is this a one-off and then see what happens? Or are you signing up to be a part of the team for a while?
Right now, we just have this one in the books, and that's it. So hopefully if I do a good job and Shannon likes how I sound and everybody can appreciate my commentary, then maybe we'll make this a more regular thing for the pay-per-view events. So, and this one is the pay-per-view, August 27th, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody, if you want to watch it, right, which you should. I try to catch as many of the Invicta events as I can. But you guys can catch it on your regular pay-per-view providers or stream it on, I think it's Fight TV, fighttv.com. So
Fight TV, no doubt. We'll be looking forward to it. Hey, got to ask you, obviously, about your career. You're back. You're fighting again, victorious. It was a great moment. You've had a chance to digest it a little bit. You almost had another fight the next week. It seemed like Aspen Ladd was calling you out.
Right.
Was there any, I mean, did you consider that at all? Was there any possibility of that happening? It seemed a little sudden, but I know you as well. And I wondered if you at least thought about it.
Man, of course I thought about it. I was like midway through a cinnamon roll. I was like, wait, what? I kid you not. I was like halfway through a cinnamon roll. I got the message. And I was like, it was Thursday, like 6 p.m. and weigh-ins were Friday at 9 a.m. And I was like, gosh, I went and stepped on the scale. I was like, don't think it's a good idea. Not so much the fight. The fight was very intriguing, but just making sure I could be a true professional, show up, make weight. You got to, factor all that stuff in. I had taken the whole week off. I was in the worst diet part of my, that 1 week. It's like the 1 week you get to just, eat all the food that you want and relax and whatever. So I called my coaches and I said, I'm thinking about doing this. Am I crazy? They're like, you're crazy. They're like, just trying to make the weight by the next morning. And then, all these things. So they're like, do it at a later date. So I was like, it was kind of one of those things that we just thought as a collective team that it was probably smarter to wait. Yeah.
Yeah. It seemed like a little far-fetched of an idea, but I knew that you do because it fit right what you wanted, right? You said, hey, I need like one more and then we'd be, so it's like the perfect name.
I really considered it because I like the matchup. I have a lot of respect for Aspen Ladd. I think she's a great opponent and, very different. Like she likes to come forward. She's aggressive. And I love that kind of fight because it always brings out the best in me, and as opposed to Marion, who's more technically sound and calculated, and she likes to kind of stay away until she can get what she wants done. Aspen Ladd's very different than that. And I hope that we can get that fight at some point. I would really like that.
Yeah, it really seems to be one that makes sense. Like I said, I like the idea of it, but doing it that soon didn't make sense. I did see you were kind of hinting at Madison Square Garden, saying that looks like a nice place. So I wanted to ask you about that. Is it just that platform of being in New York City, the legendary MSG, or is it that date on the calendar that makes sense? What is it about that one that appeals to you?
Well, the idea of running it back exactly 5 years since I had retired there was kind of like, okay, that seems to make a lot of sense, But then I found out I lose 15% more of my purse just for fighting in New York. Plus I have to have a COVID vaccine. And I just don't like, surprise, surprise. I don't like being told what to do. So I just decided, you know what? I'm probably not going to gun for that card right now, but I still want to fight in November. So maybe the week after or the week after that, mid-November, right? Mid-November sounds great. Then I can eat all I want for Thanksgiving and enjoy Christmas. Like there's been so many cards that I have fought on the New Year's card that I'm like, a mid-November card sounds like perfect.
That's awesome. You touched about fighting on the exact same platform where you retired. Does it feel like you need to exercise some demons or something? Is there something you need to address? Or, does that need to happen at some point?
It did when I first thought about it. I was like, it just sounded so right, like destiny-wise. And then, of course, I was thinking, oh, Madison Square Garden. And then what if I could fight Raquel there again? I was like, wouldn't that be perfect? Right? Exactly 5 years later. But you know what? I'm never somebody who's too stuck on that part of it because really that's such a small. What matters is that I get a fight and I get an opponent, and it's right for me. So I don't worry too much about the nuances. Although it sounded real nice for a minute, but I think overall, what's more important for me is that I'm in a good mindset and a good place and fighting a good opponent, and that's it. So maybe not Madison Square Garden this time around, but maybe one time before the career is all said and done. You know, I have a different approach a little bit this time. I used to think all those things were so important, and they are. You know, fighting on the, I don't care about fighting on a pay-per-view anymore. Like I don't care. I just want to get wins, and I want to get back to the title. I don't care about doing as much of the media and press and having, I used to, everyone would be like, jump, and I would just be like, how high? Like, how much can I cram into my life and my schedule? And now it's like, you know, 1 interview a day, maybe 2 max if they're short interviews. And I just have to learn to say no. Before, I used to think I had to say yes to everything and everybody and every obligation, and I really spread myself thin. Now it's like, guys, I got kids, I got new priorities, I got things I got to do. I got to train. I got to make that obviously big priority in my life. So no, I don't care about that stuff as much as I used to. You know, I used to think I got to take advantage and make the most and maximize every single situation. Now I'm like, it'll come. It you know, what's meant to be will be. If I focus on being the best fighter, you know, I'm going to be a champion again. All you guys will be there waiting for my questions and my answers, and you know, the opportunities and the pay-per-views, and those will come. So I'm not in a hurry, but I'm also not wanting to waste too much time either. I want to stay active with my fighting, and that's where the focus lies. Could not care less if it was a fight night card. I don't care if I'm on the undercard. I don't care if I'm on a pay-per-view. I don't care if I'm in the main event. I've done it all, seen it all. I'm ready for it all, but I have no pride in this anymore. I just want to win and be the best.
Something tells me you won't be on the undercard of a fight night. I'm just saying, but I
couldn't care less if I was.
No, it's amazing. I think back, you know, all the pressure and all that, man. You know, you and Rhonda, as y'all were kind of ascending to the top and really bringing women's MMA to the forefront. You girls were stretched awfully thin back then. I mean, it seems like they ran you out everywhere. Did you enjoy that time? Or like in retrospect, was it fun, or did you really kind of not like the whole time?
No, I thought it was necessary. I can't say that I enjoyed that. You know, when you have so much already that you're trying to balance, and then you're trying to do all of the extras, and I really didn't know how to say no to anything or delay it. I just thought I had to do it all. But now it's just a different point. You know, I realize in life that these things will be there, and the opportunities are not necessarily missed just because I'm putting it off, or I'm putting other things that are more important in my life, getting the most out of my training. I mean, I have these apps that monitor like how well I sleep, how stressed I am, my recovery. And I just realized when you add all these things and you're just taxing yourself to the max, it really does affect your training. I didn't know that before because I didn't have these tools. I just thought I've got to do everything I can at full speed. And I kind of turned into a wrecking ball, but I kind of wrecked myself in the process, and it was just really spread too thin. So now I'm just trying to balance everything the best that I can. And I have way more on my plate now than I did even then, but I'm better at managing these things. Like I said, you know, the interviews have got to be when it works for me. And, you know, I'm just trying to put myself as a priority, you know, in this second chapter of my career. And I sound silly, but I didn't do that in the first go around. I didn't know to do that.
Yep. No, I think that's fantastic advice. I mean, obviously not just for fighters, but just for people in life, you know, prioritizing and, you know, mental health and happiness. You seem so much happier and just lighter, you know what I mean? If you want to use that as a word this time around.
That was the word I used. I try to describe that to people going into my next fight. I was like, you are going to see a lightness in me in the octagon, and it's going to represent where I'm at in my life. You know, I'm not this plotty, heavy, kind of flat-footed fighter. Like, I'm going to come out there and you guys are going to see me float around and move different than I ever have before. And I just knew that because of the way my training was going. But I didn't know how much the outside really was going to affect what went on the inside until I was really getting through my training camp. And I'm like, I'm way different. I was looking at videos of my old sparring, you know, when I was at the peak, when I was the champ, when I was doing all these things. I'm like, I didn't move like I move now. I'm legitimately better now. Like, I believed like I would kick my own ass back then. And that's how I look at it. So I look at these things, and I'm like, there's no denying. The proof is in the pudding, the numbers, what I'm able to lift, what I'm able to do, the anaerobic thresholds I'm able to push past. But I have built such a good team around me now that nothing's taking away for the first time. There's no one else I'm fighting except for the woman standing across the octagon.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll see a big fight mid-November. I'm sure there'll be some names out there for you. In the meantime, you'll be on the microphone for Invicta FC 44. I believe the prelims are on YouTube. Main card is on Fight TV. You still got the Sirius XM show going, right? Yeah. Is there anything else people need to know? I know you said you're balancing yourself, but you still got a lot going. Anything else people need to know about?
Yes, coming soon. I'll be launching a YouTube channel. I have my YouTube channel up, but I'm launching a series that will let people more in on my life, because I love my MMA fans, don't get me wrong, but I have like 86% male following on Instagram. Surprise, surprise. But look, I know, but I love my ladies. Like, I'm a mom. I'm still nursing my son. I'm very domestic outside of fighting. I love to fight because I'm a competitor, but I'm the most competitive mom. I love to cook. I love to bake. I clean my house. I wash my own toilets. Like, I do all this stuff that's like, probably some people don't care about, but maybe some people would think that I'm not so different. I think sometimes women look at me and they're like, oh, I could never. No, like, we are the same. Like, there's a warrior inside every woman. And I want people in general to be able to identify with the different facets of me, Miesha Tate, the complete person, not just me as a fighter, everything that I am. And so that'll be coming. Hopefully we'll be able to launch it maybe around September. Mm-hmm. And you'll see my engagement. I'm going to be trying on wedding dresses. We're going to be shopping for wedding venues. We're going to do all this awesome stuff that you guys, exclusive content you don't get to see otherwise. You get to see my workouts. Cool. You get to see me punching people in the face. You already know I do that. What else? What else can I offer that's, that you guys will let you in a little bit on the life that's Miesha Tate?
That's awesome. Well, good luck with that project. Appreciate it. Obviously, we'll be tuned in to Invicta. And thank you for fitting me in your busy day and let me be the one or possibly two interviews that you accepted today.
Absolutely. All right. You take care. It's always good talking to you.
All right, always good to hear from Miesha Tate there. She had told me, by the way, that she was really looking at the idea of the Ketlin Vieira-Sarah McMahon matchup next week. The winner of that is probably a good next step for her, assuming they could come out healthy. But Sarah McMahon, unfortunately, is out of that, so I don't know if they're going to get a replacement opponent for Ketlin Vieira at this point. But we'll have to see how that plays out. So hopefully we'll see her back in November, like she said. All right, listen. Did want to mention, obviously, PFL is kind of going on while we're recording this, so I promised that we get Danny Segura to help break down a PFL, but unfortunately, I forgot that this week's was a Thursday. They go back to Friday next week, so we'll get Danny Segura next week. He's been out there, he's living in Florida now, so he's been kind of living the PFL beat the last couple of weeks. So we'll get Danny Segura again.
Talk about Joel
Romero. We'll get Danny Segura on to talk some PFL next week. And I was going to get Nolan King to talk some Bellator this week. Obviously, Bellator is Friday night. He didn't make the trip up to South Dakota, so he'll be at home covering this one. But it's kind of I'll be honest, it's not the greatest card.
He's not sad.
It's not the greatest card in history. And of course, they lost the fight that I thought was one of the best fights of the entire weekend across all three promotions. Was Borix versus Wilson. And JJ Wilson actually came in overweight, significantly overweight. I think 4.5 pounds overweight or 4 pounds. That fight was scratched. And man, I like JJ. He's a good kid, but he's missed weight a couple of times now. So we got to kind of
who'd you pick in that one?
Iron this thing out.
If you don't mind me asking, I picked JJ on that one.
I think I'd pick JJ. I can't remember.
But you're right. That fight was gangbusters.
If I did pick JJ, it's definitely a homer pick because I do like Borix. Both those guys are legit.
Adam's legit. Adam's bad.
I was torn up on that one.
That's one of those ones I think a lot of people are wondering, like, why put those two against each other?
Right.
They're both like super studs with a lot of career to go.
I was surprised to see it when they put them together, but I was loving it, but I was also like, ooh, they
seem. Well, I guess the UFC does it every once in a while too, but I think sometimes they don't. But I know we always question when other promotions like kill off their studs before before they've ever had a chance to really blossom. But that was one. But you're right. I remember seeing us post, that fight was off, but I didn't really think about it. But now you remind me, I'm like, Oh, that sucked. I was really looking forward to that
fight. That to me was honestly one of the best fights of the weekend across all 3 cards, man.
Sure.
That was unquestionable. So I was bummed out. So anyway, I ended up not having Nolan on. We'll get, he's at home this week. We'll give him a week off. I'll continue to bring him on more to talk about Bellator cards because he's been kind of a de facto Bellator beat reporter, with everything that's going on. So, all right, listen. Before we wrap up, we have one last set of questions, didn't we? I believe so.
We did. Let me hop back over there. And then
I guess we didn't have that.
Oh, no, this one.
We didn't have that notated in our pre-fight notes. It's like you weren't ready there for
I was
pre-meeting.
The Busy Bond over here in the Slack channel was asking me about some stuff. So I was reading that. I apologize.
Busy
Work
Bond.
never stops.
You just pulled back the curtains on that one, by the way. Huh? Yeah. In Slack, in our company Slack chat, Mike Bond is
Busy Bond.
Busy Bond
Because he's always busy working. Good man. All right, this one, Daniel. It's like a few questions.
All right,
I think
rapid fire.
All right, thanks again, boys, for opening the bat line for us as usual. I don't know where that accent just came from, but he said tanks instead of thanks, so I immediately want to go.
Is that Patty Pimlet over there?
Thanks again, boys. Yeah, for opening the bat line. As usual, I have more than one question. Can you all share a street fight story? Enough of the pan. We want aggressive Morgan. Damn it. So there's. Should I just read all of them?
All right, no, we'll start there. So rapid fire. I'll be honest with you. I haven't been in a street fight basically since high school, man.
Yeah,
I was a very angry young kid in high school that I don't know why, but I just hated the world and wanted to fight. And I was angry, and I didn't get in a lot of fights. But since then, I've calmed down. One of my favorite, I guess you would call it a fight, was on the soccer field. When a player from a team continued to yank my jersey, and I was like, if you pull my jersey one more time, I'm gonna knock you out. And he pulled my jersey, and I turned around and
that's soccer, though, right?
Slugged him, dude.
Isn't that what you do in soccer?
Yeah, you do. But I just slugged him
because they can't touch you, but they can touch your jersey.
So I got red carded and kicked off. And the entire crowd was yelling assault and battery at me. We were playing a much nicer high dollar. Yeah, they were. So the very
you were playing the Bishop Gorman.
The very affluent crowd was yelling assault and battery at me as they kicked me off the field. And then one of the last fights I ever got into was. Now, listen, I've had some moments along the way over the years where we found ourselves in some situations.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of like squared up and like not the one instigating, but like making sure that like if my boy's about to get into something, like I'll have his back. But I try to avoid it, man. It's just not worth it. Man, you can get shot out there and stuff like that. But my last fight that I got into was with a handful of police officers.
Yeah.
I had a couple run-ins.
Screw them boys in blue.
I had a couple run-ins with the local police where I grew up in DeSoto, Texas. And one day, I was walking outside my apartment. I moved out when I was 6. My mom's going to hate that I'm even talking about this. I had a screwed-up childhood. But I moved out very young, and I had my own apartment. But anyway, one day, I was walking outside. I think this was just after my senior year of high school, actually. And I was walking outside, and a police officer was there responding to, in my apartment complex, to a domestic violence call. But it was not me. It was somebody. There was an active domestic violence call that they responded to. So they saw me. And I guess they thought I was the suspect, so they asked me to turn around and put my hands behind my back. Well, I had been arrested a couple times, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I just turned around and started to walk off. And he was like, turn back around and put your hands behind your back, like to face him. And I didn't want to. I just wanted to go back in. But finally I was like, all right, he kept yelling at me. So I turned around. And as soon as I turned around with my hands behind my back and faced him, he maced me. And so I being a dumb 18-year-old, I just started cussing and yelling at him. And then he came to try to arrest me, and I wasn't going to let him. And then I just started swinging and going crazy, and a handful of police officers detained me. And so that fight didn't go my way. I pulled the L on that one. But yeah, after the trouble I got in with all that, I was just like, this is stupid. Like, quit being. The guy I am now, it's crazy to think of what I was when I was a kid. I was an idiot, but fortunately I've calmed down. So no good street fight stories lately.
There you go.
I heard one where Kenny almost shot somebody, but we won't talk about it.
We won't talk about that. Let's go to number 2. What are y'all's take on Yana Kunitskaya allegedly fighting while pregnant?
Saw that. I never thought she was pregnant. All women have to take a pregnancy as part of the pre-fight medicals, especially here in Nevada. You have to take a pregnancy test. I suppose there could be a mistake in it, but I heard some people say like, she looks like she's too far along. There's no way that I just don't. I don't think she would do it.
Yeah.
So there's no need to. It's not like they're in some dire financial straits where she's got to make this paycheck right now or not. And B, they make you take a pre-fight pregnancy test as a woman. So if you're pregnant, you can't compete.
You can't fight, right?
So I thought people were overreacting to that.
Yeah. And there it is. So if you can't fight if you're pregnant, there you go. And also, too, she knows her body better than us, whatever case. If a doctor says she can do whatever the fuck she wants, she can do whatever the fuck she wants.
And it was interesting.
But if she didn't show up as pregnant, then there it is right
there. It is
there.
interesting that she felt the need to come out and address it, you know what I mean, that she actually posted the picture, but, good for her.
I mean, we are so – it's a discussion that I know I will alienate a ton of people. It's funny, like – we are so keen to want to pay attention to women and what they do with their bodies, where let the women and let their doctors decide what they want to do. You know who else pays a lot of attention to what women do and what they do with their bodies?
Who's that?
The Taliban.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Like I said, I was going to alienate a lot of people.
I was not expecting that.
I know
that took a sudden turn. Sudden turn.
You know who else wants to control women and their bodies? The Taliban. Stop it, folks, or I'm going to call you Taliban.
Wow.
All right, let's go to number 3. Any update on Brian Caraway? Last I read, he was going to court over the bikes he and Miesha had together or something like that. Or was it?
Yeah, they had some property
was it
dispute over. I think it was. It was ATVs, like 4-wheelers.
ATVs. There it was. I knew it was something along those lines.
Yeah, they had some property disputes. That was just a bad situation, man. Obviously, you've heard Miesha come out and talk to about it a lot more. I mean, she's kind of throwing him under the bus without ever mentioning specifically his name, but you know exactly what she's talking about. They had a very rough breakup, man.
She didn't say his name. She just said my ex.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
She just said I was around some toxic people. They had a very unfortunate ending to their relationship. I think he's married now. I think
Is he really?
Yeah, I think he got married to a new girl.
him.
Brian's actually a really good dude.
Brian's super, super nice.
He's a super good dude. It's one of those things where, like, and who hasn't had this in their life, right? Where you're like, I like that guy. I like this girl. Unfortunately, together they suck. You know what I mean?
But I still
friendly,
like them both.
They're great, and that's kind of how it was. I mean, you got to admit, you think about where they started and where they went to, and all that went along, and man, the pressures of fighting, and oh man, it was a lot for both of them. Now, I'm sure both of them have regrets about the way that relationship played out, but I don't think that was really any like. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, technically it's theft, but it's not really theft. It's more just like a property dispute over who owns what and who paid for what, and it's super complicated. So, short answer, I don't know legally what happened with that. Long answer, I can tell you as a longtime Las Vegas resident and a lot of people that saw kind of that whole relationship play out here. Those are two both very good human beings that unfortunately just had kind of a toxic breakup at the end.
But at least on the positive side, you said he's happily married now.
Happily married now, yeah,
good.
Yeah.
And she seems absolutely happily married. So the happy ending both ways.
That's it.
Happy ending.
It worked out good. All right, listen.
That's it.
We've been rambling long enough. Hopefully you enjoyed our stories of what happened last week. We'll have full coverage this week. By the way, I do want to say, and I'll shout out to Joe from H-Town as the one that got me into it. I've been watching the Dark Side of the Ring stuff. I've been watching a lot of these. They're on. I think they're on Hulu. So I've been watching a lot of these.
Good.
It's really good work.
Good.
It's done. It does make me wonder: are we sure this is the business that we want to be copying? Man, they got some problems in that business. So I guess tune into All Elite Wrestling on Friday. If my man Punk is coming back,
I think 2 or 3 episodes in, but
it's good.
Just after 2 or 3,
it's on Hulu. Because it was Vice that creates those. I thought you had to have some subscription to some Vice or whatever. But they're on Hulu. So if you've ever wanted to watch the Dark Side of the Ring stuff, it's on Hulu.
So good.
They are really, really well done.
So good.
And yeah, man, the wrestling business has some crazy, crazy stuff. And I guess, like I said, if my man Punk is coming back, then I guess I'll have to watch. Damn it! I haven't watched wrestling since I was 8 years old. But I'll have to watch my man CM Punk.
Someday, hopefully, they'll have those stories of the LFC, and they'll have us in there, and they'll have the documentary. Vice will come and remember back when
you don't want them
John
exposing
Morgan
that dark side. You know what I'm saying? You don't want that.
Just expose the backside.
It's like, why is every episode about cold coffee? I don't get. Is he the only dark side of this whole thing?
Yeah, he is. He is.
Oh, awesome! All right, well, it's good to be back. It's been a while since we've been together. It's good to be back. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all over on Patreon.com/The MMA Roadshow for the and a half after this week's episode. For everybody else, thanks for listening.